All right, hi everybody. So I'm gonna do a couple videos about the endocrine system, not necessarily short and sweet because the endocrine system is actually quite large and complicated, but I'm gonna chunk out the videos so that we're gonna talk about, important aspects of each like gland basically in kind of like one short maybe video. So we're gonna start with the hypothalamus and the posterior pituitary gland and their relationship. One of the things you want to understand is that the hypothalamus is just inferior to the thalamus, right? And just superior to the pituitary gland. So you can see right here is the thalamus, right? There's the thalamus. So we have the hypothalamus as this inferior portion right here, and it's attached to the pituitary gland. So what you want to notice or maybe sort of understand is that technically the posterior portion of the pituitary gland is actually an extension of the hypothalamus. So what we see here is in the hypothalamus, you have these neurosecretory cells. So this is one type of cell, and this is another type of neurosecretory cell, okay? So it's a cell, basically, that's also got a neuron attached to it or a set of neurons attached to it. And each of these cells is going to make a different hormone. Okay, we don't need to know exactly what the cell's name is or what specific hormone each cell makes. We're just going to say that, yes, this set of cells, this neurosecretory cell here, is going to make oxytocin. Okay, and when it does, it's going to transport that oxytocin down to the bottom of this neuron, and the neuron is going to store that oxytocin, okay, in its synapse. Then we have another set of cells or another cell here that's going to make antidiuretic hormone. Whoa. All right, let me respell that. Okay, so antidiuretic hormone has a abbreviation called ADH, or they abbreviate it as ADH. Please do not just memorize abbreviations. You need to know how to spell the words out, okay? That is something I should not have to tell you, but I will. So again, antidiuretic hormone is made by these neurosecretory cells. It's transported down the neurons through the infundibulum, because this is our infundibulum. Which is technically the extension of the hypothalamus creating the posterior pituitary gland, okay? So that what that means is the posterior pituitary gland is storing oxytocin and antidiuretic hormone, okay? Then what's going to happen is the hypothalamus is going to be stimulated. The hypothalamus stimulation is going to cause the neuron to release these hormones. Okay, so you kind of have to understand what oxytocin does. Okay, so oxytocin primarily targets the uterus. And I'm sure I could do this better, but I'm sorry, I just don't have the time right now to like completely make 100% awesome videos. So oxytocin is going to primarily target the uterus, and then the uterus has an effect, and that is to contract during labor. Okay, it does other things too. So it helps with ejection of breast milk, it helps with ejection of semen, those sorts of things as well. But this is the best one to remember, okay? So causing oxytocin to be released is something of a neural stimulation. So you basically have a neuron that's going to send a message towards these neurosecretory cells. And then again, this is a neural stimulus here. Because basically that's telling us to release oxytocin into the bloodstream, okay? And we want to remember the blood that's coming in is, is coming from the internal carotid artery, and then the blood that's leaving is going out the cavernous sinus. Okay, so essentially we're going to take this oxytocin. Oxytocin enters the bloodstream and then moves around until it gets to the uterus or its target locations. All right. Antidiuretic hormone has a slightly different stimulus. What antidiuretic hormone does is it targets the kidneys. And when it targets the kidneys, it tells the kidneys to reabsorb water. So it's going to remove water from urine and add it to blood. Okay, so basically a secondary effect of antidiuretic hormone is increasing blood volume. So this also helps us increase blood volume, and as a result, it increases blood pressure. Okay, we're going to learn more about that when we get to the urinary system, essentially. So again, what is the stimulus here? So actually the stimulus for antidiuretic hormone is the lack of water. So if your blood volume drops, you send a message to the hypothalamus, and then the hypothalamus will send a nerve impulse. So again, this is neural. And that nerve impulse is going to tell us to release antidiuretic hormone into the bloodstream, which then targets the kidneys to reabsorb water. Okay. So these are the two hormones the hypothalamus makes that get released or secreted from the posterior pituitary gland. This is why you want to understand the posterior pituitary gland is not making anything. It's just storing stuff until the hypothalamus is ready to release it. Okay. So the next part I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the hypothalamus anterior pituitary gland relationship.